Welcome back to another edition of the Raiderland podcast. Ryan Hyatt sitting here with K-Mac, Red Raider Nation Sports Director David Collier. We are both sitting down, but you can't tell because it's a podcast. We find out in the Monday presser that Justin Murphy's no longer going to be a part of the team going forward. Found out, I guess, Saturday when everybody knew that he was dinged up enough that he didn't travel. The way Kliff Kingsbury made the statement today, though, led me to think that he wasn't really maybe necessarily on board that it was completely injury related. There was something weird going on there in the way he phrased it.
Yeah,
and he kept saying you got to talk to Murphy. You got to ask him.
Yeah, and it kind of reminds you of other situations like Corey Dolphine earlier this year. Whenever he parted ways, it was the same situation. You need to ask him why he doesn't want to be here, and just the whole issue and the way it was brought about, it definitely seemed weird. And this had been building. I mean, he was frustrated in the game that he got kicked out there at the end of the game. What was it, the West Virginia game?
West Virginia, and he missed the first half of the next one.
OU game, didn't travel to the Oklahoma State game. I guess it just boiled over after this past weekend.
Bottom line, though, that's another body you're going to be missing on an offensive line that was already depleted. And we talk on TV on Red Raider Nation on Tuesday night about the biggest concern going forward. I think you and I both agree that these next two games, it's going to be rough work up front.
Yeah, it is. And it was Madison Nonu had that blocking downfield penalty
early on. Not going to play much anymore.
And exactly, and Kliff mentioned that in the Monday presser. Basically, we've gotten to the point where we've only had 8 penalties in the last 3 games. That's because we told people they're not going to play if they have penalties. And
that's what happened.
Yeah, so you're getting younger on that offensive line, and not that Madison was full of experience, but obviously has the skill set that they were looking for. It's just going to be a tough road to hoe against 2 teams. Thankfully, you get what appears to be maybe 2 of the bottom 3 teams in the conference. I think by the time you get to Baylor, they're not going to have anything to play for.
Hopefully.
That's the situation. Maybe your offensive line won't be dealing with a team that's really ready to play there.
I go back to August, and I think Kliff here is a little bit of a victim of maybe overselling that offensive line and talking about it being the most talented group since he's been here and that there really would be no drop-off. I'm paraphrasing here, but that's basically the way it came across. I think that's led to some of the frustration maybe for some of the fan base and watching 5 guys not be able to block 3 and everything else. We felt like going in that the offensive line would be the weak link to this offense, if anything, just because of so many new faces and a consistency standpoint. And I feel for the unit a little bit. I think they got oversold. I think the expectations were too high, and it started with Kliff.
Yeah, and that's a difficult situation, I think, to be in as a head coach. You don't want to throw it out there that, hey, we're young and let that get into those kids' head that, we're not expecting a lot from you. And one of the few times that I'm defending Kliff here. I think you have to at that point. You have to make them at least feel like they're good enough to keep this thing going. So it's a weird place.
Here you go. All right, let's go back to August. I'm going to be Kliff Kingsbury. You be David Collier, like a reporter guy, and ask me about the offensive line, what I think.
Coach, what are the thoughts? Lost a lot of people last year. What are the thoughts of the offensive line going into this season?
Hey, we really like these guys. They're really talented, but they're really young. There are going to be some growing pains. I think you're going to see some great play at times, and then other times we're just going to have to hang in there with them and kind of let them learn their lessons together and just stick with it. It may be feast or famine at times, and we're hoping a lot more feast than famine.
Yeah, that's a good answer, but at the same time, as the offensive coordinator of that unit, I think it's a little more difficult. I don't know. I mean, I get what you're saying, but we don't want those.
By the way, I lost
bites.
40 pounds when I started talking like Kliff there and answering that question. I felt sexy.
You looked
that
better.
Was really good.
You looked a lot better.
Running game, dinged up, banged up, and if you're Corey Dolphine, maybe you're thinking, wow, I should have hung around.
Darn it. Yeah, I'd be playing, That's bad timing on his part. Clearly, it wasn't the system that he wanted to run the football in. But, man, right now, he'd be running the football. Whether they wanted him back there or not, or whether he could block or not, he would be running the football right now. It's pretty clear that, nothing against Quentin, but he's
well, he had 6 carries on the year.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have a situation late in that game. Theoretically, it doesn't end up costing you the game because of the way it played out from there, but that fumble could have been the ender if you don't do what you do after that. But am I crazy to think Luke Stice used to play a little running back down there at Houston? Situationally, a guy with vast experience. I love his intensity. I love his mental toughness. Is it crazy to say stick him back there maybe in a couple of situations?
No, I agree with that 100%. You brought that up a few days ago when we were getting ready for the last call, and I was like, you know what? That's probably one of the best questions that you've ever come up with, just for the sheer fact that maybe it's something not many people are thinking about, and even in situations in pass blocking. I mean, he's a hey, I'm a team first guy, no matter what, and he can at least chip somebody or something like that. Something that
if anyone could handle it, he could handle it.
It's I think it's a perfect situation. You said situational. Put him in there on third and short or something like that, and maybe he can pick up those couple of yards.
Yeah, because I don't think it would be too hard to get him ramped up on a couple of plays.
Yeah,
son, he's going to hand it to you, run that way, do what you used to do. The one killer to that is he's getting more snaps now than he was midseason because of the depletion at linebacker. And you don't want to slow a guy down after he gets his first sack since 2011 there against Perman or whatever, but that might be the only thing that slows that down. Is it's a risk-reward deal because you take away a little bit maybe from his defense.
Yeah, and he's just, like you said,
but I'm
playing.
Not talking 20 carries.
Yeah, no, not 20 carries. A couple of carries here and there, and yeah, it won't affect him helping out on that at linebacker with the issues with Hinton and Brooks, who unfortunately seems to get dinged up every single game. He's a young guy that has a great future, but man, maybe it's just a lot of plays for him on that young body right now.
Yeah, and I think it may be taking its toll compared to what you do in high school compared to the punishment you take in college. All right, always enjoy hearing from you guys here in Raiderland. Drop us a line in the comment section. You got some questions you'd like to ask me or David Collier. Easy to do. We'll get right back to you. And as I said earlier this week on Red Raider Nation, please don't make your comments Bush League. We would appreciate that if you could keep away from that. All right, Travis, edit this thing out. Do what you can with it. Make us look good.
Or sound good.
Or sound good.